Today, Ukrainian rescue workers weren't digging for survivors. They were trying to recover bodies.
Ukraine, the sound of missile strikes and air sirens.
It's truly sad what's happening in Ukraine, but what's worse is what we're doing with it as Americans. Are we making matters worse, or are we really helping Ukraine? That is the big question of this video, folks. And whatever foreign policies we have in US, is it making matters worse for people at home, for American families? Is it hurting our own economy by getting ourselves involved in this war at a level that we're spending billions of US dollars and taxpayer money and causing all this stuff? So today we're going to talk about the war in Russia and its impact on US economy, and more specifically the real estate economy, which is becoming unaffordable for the average American, as you know. And what Biden is doing, the current administration, should I say, is doing, is making Jerome Powell's job even harder than what it is, which is to bring down inflation and bring back up the economy that took a hit last December. So before I even get started, folks, I want to request that you like and subscribe to this channel if you like this kind of content. If you see value in my content, if I were to tell you everything that the media is telling you, what's the point of me being here, folks? I'm telling you something different that I saw in the international media, to make you question what's happening in Ukraine so you can make a better decision and you can start seeing through the curtain. I have a professor who is a national figure in economics. His name is Professor John Mersheimer. He's from the University of Chicago. So we're going to hear about his views about the Americans' role in this war. We're also going to talk about and play some clips from Oliver Stone, our famous director, who recently met with Putin and has published some of the clips on his mentality and what Putin is thinking. And in his video, he talks about something very ironic, folks. He talks about the fact that this is about money. If you follow the money, you will see and figure out what's happening. Why American investors are buying Ukrainian bonds for pennies on the dollar. Are we really helping this country? Are we helping ourselves? I'll present the facts, but I'll let you decide. You will be shocked and surprised how fake news in the media is again brainwashing the American public when the truth is contrary, folks. I recently went to Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Pakistan and other countries, and I saw a totally different picture of what they were talking about in terms of Russia and Ukraine war than what the US news channels are telling you. So let's start with some background and put some facts out there just to set the base, right? Ukraine used to be part of Russia. Russia used to be Soviet Union. Okay, not too long ago. We know that, right? Russians have not attacked any country in the past decade, as long as I can remember in the past decade, whereas we as US have attacked many different countries, including Iraq, Syria, Libya, regime changes, and Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. In fact, after 9/11, Russia extended a hand of friendship towards George Bush, and he helped US immensely in fighting the war of terrorism. They hunt down Taliban with us in the Afghan borders. They deployed their own troops to help catch ISIS and other bad actors, which we, by the way, created by attacking Iraq for weapons of mass destruction, which were never found. And then we have our own president, George Bush, who was making cracking jokes about how we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction.
There's a mass destruction got to be somewhere.
Every time there's a Democratic president in the office, it surprises me that somehow we look for a boogeyman. Could be China, could be Russia. In this case, it's Putin, right? It begs the question, are we creating these characters so we can fear them and then we can fight against them? Then we can fill the pockets of these companies, the Carlyles, the Halliburtons, the Lockheed Martin, so they can build more weapons of mass destruction. War is bad, folks. I'm against war. I'm sure you can tell by now. I don't think war has solved any problems. And if you can learn a lesson from the history, think about what happened with the Afghan war. We were in Afghanistan for almost 15, 20 years. What happened? The Afghanistan army could not withstand Taliban. Now the entire country went back to the mullahs. We lost 5,000 of our own family members in that war in Afghanistan. US has heavy dependency on Russian oil, but not just oil. It's also gas and many precious metals. Did you know that a lot of precious metals that come from Russia that are being used in these expensive American cars and semiconductors and chips? This war is only going to make our economy worse. Or shall I say, this current administration, by putting more stricter sanctions on Russia, is crippling the American economy. The stock market crashed literally 40% a few months ago because our inflation was so high, then the war started and so on and so forth. But Biden is now blaming Putin.
And the White House is placing the blame for the pain at the pump squarely on the shoulders of Vladimir Putin.
When gas prices were high to begin with because of inflation. And oh, by the way, the inflation is not just 7%, as they're lying to you, okay? It's at least 10%. Just go to a grocery store, compare the price of dates or walnuts or eggs or milk from 2 years ago, and do your math. Russia was also not included in the NATO. Okay, they're part of G20. They go to France, for conferences and so on and so forth, but they were deliberately not made part of NATO. Neither was China. So why did that happen? If we're going to take a country like Ukraine that used to be part of Soviet Union and now make them part of NATO, and then we're going to put our NATO forces on their borders, what's going to happen? Nonetheless, it's very sad what's happening in Ukraine, folks. And we should, if America could do anything for Ukraine, at least they should open the doors for these refugees. 15 million people have left their country. But to write a check for $31 billion of taxpayer money to Ukraine and send weapons of mass destruction to them, and then hundreds and thousands of troops, which is going to cost a lot of money as well, on top of that $31 billion. Do you know how many people or how many children you can feed with $1 billion? You can literally feed and take care medically of 14 million children. And you write $31 billion to a country that has no geographical interest. So is it just to show power, to show strength, or is it to make more money for these bigger companies like Carlyle and Halliburton and Lockheed and others, right? Is it a game of money? And I think it is. Make no mistake, this is not about saving democracy. We are nobody to tell anybody to run their country, okay? China is not coming and telling us that you should all be communist, right? They're not saying that. We are effectively in 70 different countries where we are, folks. Our US Army spending money like water in 70 different countries. And here we don't have money for our own Medicare, Medicaid. Adults, elderly can get proper health care. They're dying in their houses. And I know an 84-year-old woman, myself, who has difficulty getting proper health benefits. But this goes back all the way from Obama's days, okay? That's when the Ukraine thing started to happen. That's when Obama wanted Ukraine to be part of NATO. And then Trump came in the office, and then, what happened with Trump and Ukraine? He got on the phone with Ukraine, asked them for some favors, or the so-called favors, and then they impeached him. At that time, Putin was still in good terms with the US. But now, Democrats are in the office again, and sad to say, they're looking for a boogeyman, and they found one. If you're a democratic country, you don't go and bomb other countries, do you? You don't go regime changes. That's not democracy. But what really irks me is the fact that you're hurting your own economy. Imagine what our economy could be right now if we were not involved in this war. But what's also funny is that other European countries are involved in this. Only US is leading the charge. None of the NATO countries except for UK and Australia are even providing any weapons. When I watched all the NATO conferences diligently, folks, none of them has promised anything except US is the only one that's doing it. So why are we doing that, folks? Zelensky used to be a comedian a few years ago, okay? Now he became president. And now he's fighting, trying to be a hero. But is he really a hero, or is he a pawn? Is Zelensky being played? Because he's being asked to be part of NATO, and US promised Zelensky they're going to go to war for him. If they become part of NATO, he will be protected. But we're not protecting him anymore. Except they're saying we're going to stay on the sidelines in Poland. You fight your fight. Here's the weapons. Here's the money. Go fight your own fight. Because of these sanctions in Russia, we're going to pay a higher price for oil and gas. Think about this winter, this summer. And Biden has actually announced that the Americans will feel the burden of this war. I don't understand any reporter that's interviewing Biden is asking this question. Why are we in this war to begin with? Why have you not tried any diplomatic means? Okay, let's listen to a clip from Professor John Mearsheimer. See what he's talking about the American foreign policies.
The conventional wisdom in the West, in a place like Britain and the United States, is that Putin is responsible for this crisis. It's the Russians. They're good guys and bad guys. And of course, we are the good guys and the Russians are the bad guys. This is simply wrong. But the United States and its allies are responsible for this crisis.
So as you heard clearly from Professor, that US policies are making matters worse, not better, folks. That's the sad truth. I would like to take a moment to play a clip from Oliver Stone, our great director, okay, who's made famous, amazing movies, as you all have seen and I've seen as a kid. And he talks to Putin, and he has a message for you folks. I really want you to pay attention to listen to some of these clips.
20 years of lying and blaming everything on Russia. You have to be a little bit more fair-minded. You have to be open to say that, is it possible that Russia has done all this and we're the good guys? It feels like a John Wayne movie. It's not.
Where is the real conflict? Who is the enemy? Are we the enemy to ourselves? Are we in the grip of a dictator? The dictator is money. The dictator is the state that exists.
So as we watch this clip, folks, from Oliver Stone, it is clear this is about money. This is not about democracy. It's not about saving any country. So you be the judge of this, folks. I can't be the judge. I can only present these facts to you. But when I saw these clips from Oliver Stone and from John Mearsheimer, I really started thinking in a different direction. Is this provocation or is this aggression? It's something that you have to think, folks. The NATO countries, the European countries are not checking out. They're still using the gas. They're dependent on the gas and other natural resources of Russia because Russia is the number 2 or 3 provider of oil and gas. Now our geniuses in the White House, Jen Psaki, is saying, well, we have 6,000 or so permits remaining. Why don't American oil companies go and dig up more oil? Well, how silly can you be to even propose something like this? US is the most expensive labor in the entire world, folks. It will cost us twice as much money, maybe even 4 times as much money to produce oil within US. But to say that the solution to having a shortage for oil and gas is to dig up more oil within the US is a silly argument, folks. If there was any profit in this, these companies would have done it a long time ago. But they're not doing it for a reason. Who's going to buy oil at $10 per gallon? All the signs, the 10-year yield and all that is all pointing to this war, and the spending that we're doing is pointing towards recession, folks. Because to increase the rates and reduce inflation, we're going to have to hit the jobs and the companies and the job market. Okay, but to sacrifice that, our own government is instilling policies and going to war and taking the American economy down with it. For what reason? Just so some rich can get richer, so some companies can put monies in their pocket, build more weapons of mass destruction? What are we doing here, folks? This will further affect the housing market negatively, folks. Okay, housing will become unaffordable for people. Because if rates go up and the prices don't go down, which is what's happening right now, then guess what? Nobody can afford the house. The American dream is, it's gone. People will be renting and the landlords will jack up the rent. And then rents will become unaffordable. So there's a trickle effect that can happen, folks. This is very dangerous times, and I hope our leaders can come to their senses. I know that Russia is a bad actor, but do you deal with Russia like this, in this manner, to make matters worse? I think there are better ways. So if you want to buy a house in this economy, this is a bad time to buy a house, folks. Because like I said, the house prices keep going up. Despite of the rate increase, the feds have no control over inflation. Inflation will keep growing. And if this war starts to go into the 2nd month, 3rd month, and 4th month, guess what? The U.S. economy will keep going down with this war. And so will the housing market in the negative way will keep going up, and the affordability for an average American will become impossible. As it is, most Americans cannot afford a house that's over $450,000, average median price nationally, okay? That is 40% higher than just 2 years ago. So how are we supposed to keep up with that? When our salaries and wages have only gone up 5 or 6% on average, right? So salary and wages is 6%, but the house are 40%. How are you going to afford that? So anyway, I want to close this. I want to say we pray for Ukrainians. I hope those 15 million Ukrainians find a home back. I hope Russia can retreat. I will drop a link here at the bottom if there's a place to donate money for Ukraine. I would encourage you guys to do that as my subscribers. A good leader is someone who brings people together. It's not who divides them. But I think by creating a NATO and then keeping Russia and China out of it, we're really dividing those regions and those countries. Okay, that's my message to you. I hope it can resonate with you guys. If you guys have any ideas, if you think I'm wrong or right, please let me know. I can always learn from you as much as you learn from me. Until my next video, I love you all, and I wish you a fantastic day. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye.